Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and about your piano journey, maybe?
I'll go. I started playing piano when I was 5 years old. My mom is a piano teacher, and so it was kind of just like an expectation, kind of. Like me and all my siblings, we found our own way to the piano without her telling us. But so I've been playing since I was five, all through high school. Um, Literally, it's just like my personality at this point. I feel like it's just my whole life. I love it so much. That's really all that comes to mind.
That's awesome. Tim, what about you? When did you start?
So I started, I'm a little bit different. I started late sophomore year of high school, early junior year. Um, I was, so I decided I wanted to do something with music going into the future, but something with voice probably. And I went to an all-state camp at, I think it was Hardin Simmons University, and some professor there was like, Tim, did you know you can get out of piano classes if you start taking piano now? And I was like, oh, I don't want to take piano in college. That sucks. I was like, so, and I'd already been crazy. So, like, I was crazy about listening to classical piano at the time. And, like, I really had, like, Chopin CDs in my room, but, it's just something I'd never thought I would, like, be able to do. And then, started taking lessons and then just started practicing a bunch. And I'm here.
Did you have piano classes?
I did get out of the piano classes. I was successful.
That's what we like to
Mhm.
hear.
That's awesome. So, what do you guys do now? Are you at a church or at a choir, or do you play with singers? What do you do?
I have had a church job since I started college. My sister actually used to be the pianist there, and then she moved up to music director. So I started out as a soprano section leader, and then the pianist left, so now I'm a pianist and have been for years. Been really enjoying that. It's a very different, like, I don't want to say style, but it's just like you got to play differently because it's kind of like improvising every Sunday. But that's just me because I don't really practice that much. So I play church. I do that. I have my solo repertoire, obviously, all my lessons and things. And then I've actually accompanied a few singers. Right now, I'm working with Reese on her recital. That's like next week, I leave. So I'm really pumped about that. I really love working with her, and I really love accompanying soloists. I think it's really fun. Um, and I think I worked with Kalandra for like a few rehearsals this last semester, kind of filling in for Rachel when she had to be at Vox Achille. So that was fun. Really fun to work with Dr. McMullen too.
That's really
Alrighty.
cool.
So, my experience has been so for a long time, probably until actually probably about this year, um, I would like, I mean, no one here really knew I played piano, and I kind of kept it in my room, really. And I was just playing solos for a long time, because that was kind of the whole point. So I just kind of liked playing piano. And then um, one time we were in like a U Singers um, sectional for the guys, and there wasn't a pianist, and Mr. Kathlina caught me playing before rehearsal, and then I started playing in the men's sectionals, and then of course I had already been singing in church, and then started playing a little bit of contemporary Christian around Denton, which is fun, really fun. But yeah, Jillian's definitely right. It's like, okay, this Sunday is my improv practice.
Well, I don't even do contemporary. Mine's like a traditional church, so I show up and do hymns every Sunday.
I feel like whether even if you do contemporary or like traditional, if you're the pianist or organist, you're going to improv. Like but so then started like being like, like this is collaborating is kind of lots of fun. This is really cool. And then started just asking like crazy and pretty much harassing all my friends like, hey, do you need a player? Hey, do you want to rehearse? Hey, do you want to do this song? And like pulling stuff out of the library reserves, and so now I've been playing with lots of instrumentalists and singers. Like this semester, I played my first jury last semester for a trumpet player, And this semester I played a jury for a bari sax and then a tenor. So yeah, lots of collaborating.
I know. I think people forget that I'm actually a pianist first. Everyone just like assumes I'm a singer, so they just forget, and I'm like, man. And I always feel weird being like, hey, I'll accompany you, but like, I should probably do it more because I really love it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we have a bunch of singers in upfront, and they can come to you guys for all their accompanying needs.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, it's really great that you guys both are solo players and are able to accompany people. How sorry, as conducting students, as future teachers, what kind of things would you like for us to know in the upfront group? Like how, for example, what is something that makes you feel really valued as a piano player and as a collaborator?
So I think one thing that's really awesome, probably my favorite thing from a conductor is when I just get the feeling that they have faith in me as much as I have faith in them. It's always kind of spooky when I get a feeling that like they're worried about what I'm doing. So it's kind of nice when like, because obviously like when you collaborate, and this is something Mr. Kathleen taught me early on, which is like these first, especially in like things like upfront, like the first dance is always a mess. The first dance with the conductor or any instrumentalist or singer, it's always a mess. Like it's never not going to be a mess. Maybe like one in a million. So it's always nice when like stuff happens, but at the end of the day, it's all smiles and it's all feel goods and kind of stuff like that. And so yeah, like I just kind of like the good morale, the good like I'm gonna get it. I know you're gonna get it. And even though this rehearsal might not be going the way we think it was going or the way we thought it was going to, is going to end up being good. What do you think, Jillian?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a really big part of it is like walking in and being able to sit down and make eye contact with the director and know y'all are like both in it together. And then just like being confident that I know what I'm doing and that I'm willing to like mix it up too for them. Like I'm really adaptable, and I feel like sometimes people aren't sure if another person is adaptable or not, and so like that's the thing with me, like someone being able to like trust that I can do what I need to and that I can do what I can to help their ensemble instead of just like playing and like just sitting there.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You're really a second leader of the ensemble. How do you feel about that like leadership role? Do you wish that you could contribute more? Like, do you like doing things like leading sectionals or like adding musical ideas? What do you think about that?
I've always enjoyed getting to contribute some. Like, I'm not a music education major. I kind of decided that a while ago, but it doesn't mean I don't like helping people learn and helping teach. And I've been doing this so long that of course I can hear when something's a little goofy and I can know how to fix it. And sometimes having that second ear is really helpful. I actually do that a lot at church because we're a really small choir, and since my sister is the director, she welcomes my opinion a lot. So like sitting at the piano is kind of like I'm also like, hey, what if we did this? What if we did this? I'm hearing this, and like I think it's really fun to be able to like give my own opinion and help out instead of just playing and waiting until they tell me to do something.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I kind of agree with that. I definitely am never like, oh man, I don't want to give my thoughts on this, or like, oh man, like I definitely love aiding in rehearsal, and I think any good like collaborator loves leading in rehearsal, and loves aiding and aiding the process. Although I will say, there have been times I think I never expect to be given a role to lead. I never expect to have my input wanted, only out of the respect of the conductor or whoever's leading. There's been multiple times when, and this also happens with soloists too, where we'll be working and I'll say like and then we'll be giving our input back and forth, and I'll say something I think the singer might not like, or like give an opinion. I'll be like, I think we should Richard Otto there, and I can see it in their face. They're like, really, you think that? And I always give the disclaimer. I'm like, yo, like you're the soloist. Like this is your song. Like of course, like we're both playing, but and same thing with directors. At the end of the day, they're the one directing, and then they're the conductor. So while I love to have my feedback taken, um, you know, it's give or take. I know some conductors love to get up there and love to really do their own thing, and some love to have free discussion. But yeah, um, definitely love leadership roles. I'm definitely comfortable with sectionals. I feel like it's almost a part of being a pianist, since it's just such a broad instrument.
Yeah, that's really insightful. Um, let's see. Is there anything that as a conductor you can maybe say to encourage feedback or something like that? Like what's something that makes you feel, oh, my opinion is valued. I'm going to speak up here.
I mean, really, sometimes just like directly asking, or like sometimes I think I've had some people pull me aside like before or after rehearsal and be like, feel free to like let me know. Maybe not in rehearsal, but after, like, so we don't waste time or something like that. But I like to be told directly that I can like openly give thoughts because sometimes I will keep it to myself. Sometimes I have a lot of thoughts. So I got to pick which ones I'm going to give and which ones I'm going to keep to myself. Um, but yeah, I really like having like just direct communication. Hey, tell me what you think. And that's it.
That's awesome. That's really good to know and kind of have in your head as you go into teaching, I think. Like, I need to make a decision and communicate it. Okay, so on the flip side of this, do you guys have any funny stories or bad experiences that you've had with accompanying and just like total miscommunications? Anything you want to laugh and share about?
Do you have any, Jillian?
I can't think of any at the time. I just like, I mean, I laugh a lot in rehearsal, but it's like, you know, when you're working with your friends, you can't help it. So like,
Yeah.
like if I'm gonna accompany one of my friends, it's gonna be goofy, and you just got to deal with it and move on. I've never had anything like crazy come up. I feel like there was probably something when I was helping out and back in high school, but that was so long ago, and so much has happened since then that I can't.
Yeah, I will say that I think that's probably the lucky thing about starting so late is like I never had to deal with like the high school shenanigans. So I think the closest I'll ever get to like bad experiences or just like moments where I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is happening is like s probably like we're talking about biggest pet peeves. Let's say like a pet peeve. I think it's like whenever you're working with like an orchestral score, orchestral reduction, and there's measured numbers and letters and like squares, and you can't tell which one they're bouncing off of. They're like, let's go to 83. And like, and this is like a big work. So there's block 83 and measure 83. And I'm flipping and like, it's just so, and of course it's funny. Like, I'm never going to sit there and be like, oh, I hate this guy. You know, but I just like, I think I've never had as much chaos as when I don't know what they're talking about and they don't know what I'm talking about. Just straight chaos.
Oh my gosh.
I've seen some of that happen, and it's just, it's hard as a singer, but I can't imagine as the pianist because everyone's relying on you.
You know, I there was something I was doing like a couple weeks ago where the rhythm was like it was just like straight eighth notes, but it was split between hands. And for whatever reason, every time I would go to start that section, if we were doing like a run through, I would start trying to do triplets or something. Like I don't know why my brain said that, but like I was looking at it and I knew it wasn't, but it was happening anyways from my hands, and I was like, I don't know. And at one point, like I think it was Kateri was like, Jillian, it's eighth notes, and I was like, thank you, because like my brain just it wasn't doing it. She was like, do. And I was like, oh yeah, I've been doing music since I was 5, but can't do eighth notes.
There are times like that. Like a lot of people think, like a lot of people are afraid to come up to us and be like, "Hey, you're making an error consistently. Are you?" But like, so, like I remember one time I was having some sort of rehearsal, and Jeremy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, we're in A major, not D major, right?" And I look, and I had like been playing G natural the whole piece for these poor kids singing in the choir. Like these poor tenors are fighting my G natural, and I was sitting there like, oh my gosh. He's like, I'm not trying to like. I love that stuff. Like, because there are moments where like we might seem like we know a lot, and we might know a lot maybe, but like we are human, and like, oh my gosh, there's some mornings where I wake up and it's like I'm looking at music for the first time. I can like.
Seriously. Yeah. I get to church on Sunday morning and I'm like, how do I play a hymn again? And it's literally just like 4-part closed harmony. It's oh. Mm.
So you guys do a lot of sight reading, huh? Is there anything that you would want some advanced like time for? Like what level are you like, I will not sight read that. Give it to me in advance.
Open score anything. Do not give that to me and ask me to do it on the spot. I will do my best, but there is, ooh, it will not sound good because I hate it so much. I can read 3 different stabs of just piano. I can do that, but I can't do open score choral reading like on the spot for some reason. I don't know why.
How do you
It's the
feel
tenor
about
line.
crazy orchestral reduction art songs like Da Capo arias, Jillian? Would you read one of those?
I think that's pretty okay. Usually, if someone gives that to me, I will glance through it, like before I even start playing, like just so I know what I'm getting into, and I'm like, eh. And if I feel like myself drowning, I usually just start leaving out like inner parts or something like that, and it's fine. The other night, someone handed me as a joke. It was like she had the prelude to Norma like just on her iPad. She was like, "Hey, let's do this," and it was like the orchestral reduction. I was like, "Yeah, okay," and I just like started playing it. I don't know.
See, I think that's funny. I think that kind of shows like the contrast. Like everyone kind of has their things. Because I love open score reading, but like if you hand me an orchestral reduction of like a fast da capo aria, I am sitting there like not blinking, like missing every note, like trying to reduce, like I'm reducing, like I'm playing like 2 lines. It's so ridiculous. And I have no idea why. I practice those things. Those da capo arias just they be they be playing games in my brain.
The only thing for open score, the one thing that gets me is just the tenor line every time. I want to read it in bass. If it were in bass clef, I would be fine. But they gotta be special. So,
So you both have your own. Jillian hates open score. Tim hates orchestral. What about, is there like a certain style or composer that is like super hard and just every pianist knows like this choral composer is terrible? Or are they just all the same to you?
honestly, I kind of just they all blend together. I sit down and I play the thing that I'm given, and that's just it. Like unless it's gonna be something like modern, but like the tonality's kind of weird and the rhythms are weird, and like if it gets really jumpy, I hate that. But we make do.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that like whenever I try to go in with like a blank slate in mind, kind of mindset, just kind of look at a piece. I will say the only time I ever get like scared before I'm about to open a piece of choral literature or a piece of literature I'm about to sight read is if it's for like a modern comp recital or like just something real like I can just tell it's about to be like a wild ride. And I think it's because it's not even hard. It's only the hard aspect of reading. So I think that's where sight reading kind of bridges. It's like, can your hands keep up? Can your brain keep up? And it's always trickier when the brain can't keep up because if I can't read the notes and my hands don't have a shot, but if I can read the notes, my hands can at least try.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just kind of like really modern music um is pretty intense.
If you start throwing too many accidentals at me, like no, like it's like 10 notes. What do you want? Like it's too much. I literally did that last night, and I was like struggling. I was like, man, there's just too many accidentals. Like it sounds cool, but why?
I will say I guess one composer that could be is maybe like like some Tchaikovsky literature. It's just uncomfortable. It's just like there's some composers that are so notorious for writing exactly how they hear it in their head instead of how they would play it. And I think personally to me, like Tchaikovsky just falls in that. Like I don't think I've ever even Tchaikovsky's solo piano works. I'm just like, oh my, this is gorgeous. Like this is perfect. Like I would not take away a single note, but my poor fingers, like, oh my gosh. So yeah, maybe Tchaikovsky.
There we go. I was just curious. So when you're opening up a new score, you look for things like accidentals and key signatures. Anything else that is like a quick cue?
I like to glance for key changes. Sometimes they also put them on a page turn, and then like who freaking knows? And yeah, so I'd have to like prepare myself mentally for that. I think that's the only thing that really gets me.
I think when I'm when I'm trying to prepare music, I think I've actually gotten in a bigger habit now of trying to go to the director or the soloist and being like, are you doing anything crazy? Like, are you taking a fermata? Are there any big ritordandos? Um, and that was something I did not start doing until very recently because I don't know. Sometimes that stuff's like way more important than what's on the page. And but yeah, I would say if looking just at the page, definitely key changes or just like stuff that just gets funky, or even better when it changes keys and doesn't actually change keys, where it's just a million accidentals. I'm like, okay, like, oh my gosh. So yeah, stuff like that. Probably like trying to mark fermatas or wherever.
And like sometimes I look for a texture change too. A lot of like my church music's too, so it'll be like chords or something, and then the next page I turn and it's like 16th note runs like the whole time, and I'm like, I should have prepared for that. Yeah, that's like another big thing. Like church music, sometimes my director will hand me an organ part, and like I can like make it sound good on piano. I did that for Easter, and it's fine. It's just like hard. It is hard because that's something like I can sight read it on the spot, but I usually have to go back and like write notes with that. Okay, so here we're gonna do the thing.
They notice that I can sight read it. Do I want to sight read it?
No.
And if we do something like that, what's your favorite thank you gift for thank you for sight reading this terrible score?
Chocolate. Chocolate makes my life feel better. So like if I'm stressed, that's it. That's the one.
Perfect. Good to know. And it's good to know, as conductors, to look for things like key changes and really big texture changes too, and kind of be aware of those. So thanks. So how much time do you want to prepare a piece of music?
It depends on how difficult it's gonna be, because like in a non-flex way, I'm usually really good at sight reading. So I can read through something once and then maybe practice it for 10 minutes. I'm good. But it all depends on how difficult and intricate it's going to be. If you give me like a day or two, usually I can have anything ready in that amount of time. So that's just like a me thing.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I've gotten a pretty good grasp on like at the most 3 days to read it. I mean, if you're and that's sight reading, if you want me to read it. But I always tell my musicians, um, the musicians I work with, that if we want to make music, like if you want me to make music with you and like really like let's make some art, move some people, we probably need about a week or two with multiple rehearsals or so. Um, I think that's a lot of people don't understand is like we can come in and read a lot of literature, like we really can. And it's really, I mean, it's a skill, so it's not super hard for us, but to actually like feel good about it and be able to do everything we want and and like develop a musical idea, or actually I'm speaking personally, like for me to develop a musical idea and be like, okay, I'm about to sit down and like make someone in the audience cry or something, like this Brahms is gonna be beautiful. It takes a few runs, and it takes time to click, just like it would with anything. We have like a sight reading chorus or a sight reading choir or a sight reading orchestra. They might be able to read awesome that first time, but give them a week or two and it's like, wow, that's awesome. It goes from being good to being awesome. So yeah, a few days for a read, and then probably at most like a week for like some really great performance level music making.
Yeah, I'd actually prefer the question not be how long do you need to learn this? I'd rather it be like how soon can I get this to you? Like as soon as you have music, you should be giving it to your pianist because we deserve that same amount of time. And usually the soloist has it long before we do, and they're already working on it. And we deserve the same time too because like there are like in the comm, there are a lot of advocates for calling us collaborators instead of accompanists. And like I usually don't have a feeling about either title. I'm like I'm here either way. But like if you really want to be in collaboration, we deserve to have the music almost as long as you do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. That's a really important thing to say. Tim, do you have any opinions on the whole terminology debate?
You know, I just play piano. Whether you want to consider it collaborating or playing or accompanying, I really don't care. Um, you know, I love, of course, I would, that's kind of like the old Tim go-to. If you were to talk to me now and like let's say like we're all new, I'd be like, oh, it's definitely collaborating because I've been talking to Dr. Puccinelli and she just says the most beautiful phrases about collaboration. It's just totally sold me on the coin phrase collaboration. I think it's collaborating. I definitely think it's like I would definitely go with collaborating. Though like there's no shame in accompanying or playing or whatever gets me
Amen.
into playing.
As long as I say it right, I used to have someone who would actually, my old orchestra director didn't know how to pronounce the word accompanist, and she always called me an accompanist. And I was like, that's where I draw the line. At least get the word right. Like, I don't care what you call me, just say it correctly.
That's awesome. I do think that it seems to me that the piano department and pianists in general, you have a really interesting way of thinking about musicality and talking about it. Is there anything that, since you both sing, that you bring from kind of your piano brain into your singing, and anything that you would like to share with, our big group of singers about musicality?
I think probably the biggest thing is like full knowledge of the score. And being able to sing, because in my piano playing, I try and be able to sing all the parts I'm playing constantly. And so whenever I go to sing, I take that same approach to the piano. Like I should be able to sing what's happening in the piano or the orchestra or whatever. And I think having that full knowledge of the score and that full level of the of or that full knowledge of the um, complete music, like of the entire music. That's terrible grammar, but having knowledge of the entire piece as a whole is really helpful just for just general musicality and eating music, because we have to remember that the composers didn't just write the vocal line and then sit there and be like, oh man, I think I have to write this piano accompaniment now, oh gosh, let me sit down. They imagined it as one whole. And I think that's one thing some singers might fail to do is realize that piano part, even as an accompaniment, is just as crucial to the composer's idea as the vocal line. So I think that's what my piano has brought to my voice.
Yeah, I agree. Something is like, in piano, we're always reading like multiple lines of stuff. And especially when I'm accompanying, I'm being sure I'm also listening to what I'm hearing and making sure everything matches up in that exact moment and in that exact phrase. And so even when I'm singing in choir or something, very rarely am I looking at my own line. I'm looking at what's happening around me and I'm looking at what's happening on the next page because I like to know what I'm supposed to be doing next. And that always helps me like build a phrase too. Because I'm like, wow, I'm not important here. I'll back off a little bit or something like that. I like to make sure that I have a full vision, like Tim said, of what's happening in the moment and especially for the whole piece to kind of figure out what's my part in all of this. And then like I guess like there's some stuff that comes from my technique just as a pianist where like I don't know, the way that I play is the way I sing. Like there's no difference there because I've always been like a fairly expressive player. And so like I'll see lines in my choir music where I'm like, wow, if I were playing this on piano, I'd probably do this or I'd probably move like this, which just means that's how I'm going to sing it.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Okay. As non-conductors, as non-pianists who will probably have to lead rehearsals, maybe without a pianist present, do you have any tips or ideas for what we could do? Like, what is the most important line if you're going to play one line, that kind of thing?
I always say like the bass and the melody. Because like I think that's like might be a church thing. When my mom was teaching me how to play hymns, she was like always at least have the bass in there because like it's kind of just like obviously the basis of the chord, so at least you know what tonality you're in. So I do that, and then at least try to like keep up rhythm and like keep in time, because like sometimes the pianist has to drop out, or sometimes you really can't do it all at once, but you want to make sure that the group doesn't lose their sense of time if you have to stop playing for a second because you get lost or something like that. Um, I don't know.
I think probably, yeah, definitely the bass and soprano line. I think being able for non-pianists, I think in the choral conducting world, or not the choral, any conducting world, like it's a must to be able to play at least two parts at the same time. Like I think that's a skill that, and not anymore. I don't think you need any more than two. If you can read the bass and the soprano, I think like you're golden. And that saves you a lot of like eating it on the piano in front of your ensemble. I just think like those are really good skills to have. Um, and it's kind of like a rudiment, just like how all your conducting patterns are rudiments, and just how your stance and your gestures a rudiment, or your warm-ups are rudiment. I think that could also be like a rudiment skill, just being able to read the soprano line and the bass by themselves, maybe a little bit together, not perfectly, but somewhat. But yeah, definitely the bass and soprano line are great, or either or.
Cool. I like that, Tim. And I liked Julian's tip about the rhythm because, even if you're eating it on piano, you got to stay in time. Cool. Thanks, you guys. So, last question. If you could say one thing to every single director you have ever worked with, what would you say?
I'd probably say thank you. I think thank you is the biggest one. Because no matter, like, I feel personally, no matter what happens in the rehearsal, no matter how quality the final product is, we're still getting the opportunity to make art. And this director, conductor, whoever has allowed me to sit at the piano and do what I really enjoy and really love. And I think that in itself has a lot to be thankful. Like I have a lot to be thankful for out of that. So it's always thank you. Definitely a big thank you.
Gosh dang it, Tim. You stole it. You did it all. I don't know. I would say the same thing. I'm always grateful for the opportunities that I have to work with other people. Being a pianist is kind of lonely sometimes. I don't really get to work with other people a lot. I don't get to play for other people. They don't get to hear what I do. And so getting to collaborate with people means that I get to show off how I can play, but also I get to see how other people perform and be a part of that. So I really enjoy it.
That's really sweet and beautiful. Thank you guys for sharing that. I'm so excited to see where you both go in your collaborative and solo journeys. And thank you guys for helping us kind of gain some perspective on what you guys are thinking when you're playing piano with the choir. So
Yes, thank you.
thank
Of
you
course,
guys.
thank you.